Hello.
Academy out of Feis Ile. How are you tonight, Mr. Murphy?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. How's yourself?
You on your holidays?
Yes, I am. This people who've watched before. This is not my usual background. You might notice.
There's no whiskey. Oh my goodness.
No, exactly. I know. I did bring some bottles with me though, so we're all right.
Well, that's encouraging.
Got to have some drams with you, you know.
I wondered if we're broadcasting. Do you think we can just assume now that we've got the good?
I think we're okay. It's telling me there's at least a few people watching already anyway. As always, if people are watching, give us a wee thumbs up or a wee comment or something just to let us know you can see and hear us okay.
So we're not talking to the void.
Exactly, just talking to nobody.
It's too early in the night to be talking to the void.
Exactly. Yeah. So, what we doing tonight then? Oh, here we go.
Keris. Hello from Cardiff. Well, Neil Murphy's nearly at Cardiff because I know that he's on the border. So I mean,
well, I'm in Dumfries and Galloway, but we're quite close to that there Englandshire. So, we're not too far away from crossing the border. Yeah, we haven't done so yet. I don't know. Maybe we'll go a wee drive tomorrow or something. But it's been nice actually. It's a nice part of the country down here. We've really enjoyed
it. Have you been visiting distilleries down there, Neil?
I've made it to one. I had hopes to make it to two, right. Because Bladnoch is down here as well. And Bladnoch is the first distillery I ever visited, but I've never been back. And it's been through quite a lot of changes since then. So I sort of wanted to get to that, but it's about an hour and a half drive from where we are. And that's maybe a wee bit too much driving to be doing on your holidays, you know, because but if that's an hour and a half there, then an hour and a half back, you know, it's a wee bit of a trek.
3 hours.
That's a wee bit of a trek, you know, especially when I don't drive, so it would be somebody else doing it. But I did go to Annandale. Yes. But I did make it to Annandale. We were down there on Monday. That's the second time I've been there as well. It's a lovely wee distillery actually, and nice whiskey too, which helps obviously. But yeah, really nice part of the country, and it was a nice tour, kind of short and sweet. We just did the kind of basic tour, you know. But I think that it was good value actually, because I think it was £15 your ticket. And that you got like your tasting, your tour, and then maybe 4 or 5 drams with that. So
that's quite good because
it's very good value. Yeah,
only give you like 1 or 2 for
exactly. Yeah, we had a wee dram just as we were starting, and then at the end there was like 2 drams of their new make spirit. You get the unpeated and the peated new make, and then the sort of unpeated and peated whiskey. That was about 5 years old or something, I think. And the guy actually was very generous back at the shop. He let us try 1 or 2 other things, and that was lovely. I took home a bottle of their peated whiskey, which had been in an STR red wine cask. The shaved
STR is very
and that was
the cult distilleries at the moment, isn't it?
Yes, well, I believe Annandale was one of the Jim Swan projects. That was one of the things he worked on. Because it's got a couple of telltale signs. It's got the twin spirit stills. You know, he sort of seemed to go for the tall wash still, but then 2 spirit stills, because it increases copper contact in the spirit run. So that you saw that.
Right there a wee bit differently. Oh, there's Mr. McChain. Hello,
Mr.
good evening,
has
Mr.
joined
McChain.
us. Hi, John.
Nice to have you.
It was a really nice afternoon, actually. In fact, morning. We were there at 11 o'clock in the morning. It was a really nice morning. And then we had a nice wee lunch in the cafe at the distillery as well after it. So it was lovely. It was lovely to get to a distillery.
I've asked David Thompson, the owner. He's a professor. I think he developed a kind of a flavoured profile thing. They work with flavors. I believe that he's got like an institute or something, and they work with flavor, not maybe specifically for whiskey, but he's very interesting man. And when I was down there, Neil, he did say like a made him say that he would come and teach the students, but he's very, very busy. So
Yeah.
I'll need to like pin him down and make a date. But I think he'd be a very interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so
I remember.
We're talking about our Feis, and
yes, that's. I think that's going to be our sort of main topic tonight, isn't it? It's sort of looking back on the Feis, because I think it was my first time coming over for it this time. So a lot of
your first time at the Feis. I didn't know that, Neil.
It was, yes. I mean, I've been to Islay countless times before, but I had never done the Feis before. So my wife and I came over to join you, obviously, for the Islay Whisky Academy's first ever open day.
Which was brilliant. We had it in the Rins Hall in Portnahaven, and that was nice for the Rins, because that's down on, for folk that don't know the maybe geography of Islay. That's, if you're looking north, it's on the left hand side down the bottom, and it's the closest distillery is Bruichladdich, so it's a bit further up. So everywhere else seems to have a lot of distilleries, so there's a lot of input for the Feis. And this wee spot down the bottom, the Rins, Portnahaven, Port Williams, I don't mean forgotten about, but
there wasn't really so much happening there.
Nothing much seems to happen for the Feis. So for us to have our open day, it was absolutely brilliant.
It was. I mean, it's a lovely spot, and the hall is beautiful as well. It's a
lovely atmosphere, very, very nice atmosphere in the hall.
Yeah,
it's because there's been so many Cayleys and Cluty Doubly Cayleys and singing along.
Yeah. Well, we had plenty of music and stuff at ours, didn't we?
Well, we had a great band, so it all kind of came organically. So what we did was we started. Well, we were meant to be started at 10 o'clock, but I think it was a wee bit later than that. We were in Portnahaven time, weren't we? So we had a series of events. So we had, from 10 o'clock, we had, it was the language of Scotch. So I hosted that, and it was like, so we had the Gaelic flavoured wheel. And then we had whiskies with difficult, Gaelic names, and the people learned to pronounce them, and then they learned some of the notes in the flavoured wheel, and we talked about the landscape, because all names for distilleries are the descriptors of landscape, so you're describing the physical landscape. So people did that. So that was the Scotch one. Then it was yourself, I think, Neil, with Ceol Agus Craic.
Yeah, I did a tasting Ceol Agus Craic. That's kind of the Gaelic crack being like sort of fun or good times kind of thing, and Ceol for music. So it was a sort of whiskey and music pairing. So we'd four whiskies. And four different pieces of music, and the sort of feeling of the two were sort of mixed together. So like if the whiskey had a sort of summery, florally kind of nose, then the music was quite sort of light and jaunty and had a sort of summery feel to it. Tried to sort of pair the emotion of the whiskey with the emotion of the music. And it seemed to work really well. It went pretty much to as I'd hoped. Because sometimes these things work and sometimes the crowd just don't get what you're trying to do, but I really felt that the people who came along to it knew exactly what I was trying to get across. And I think
the people, Neil, that came to our open day, you had to make an effort to come to us, because we, like Portnahaven and Port Williams, is it's kind of off the beaten track. So I think that the people looked at all the things and specifically chose. It's not like maybe going to other events and other distilleries, they go, oh, I'll go to that, I'll just go to that. Whereas they actually, so maybe people, and also I think we gave different things.
Yeah.
We had a lot of culture, a lot of art, a lot of creativity in ours. So I think a certain type of person was drawn to that.
I think so, yeah. I think, and it's funny because I think we spoke about this at the time. I actually almost feel that that's kind of true of the academy in general, that we almost seem to attract a certain kind of person, which, I mean, it's not as simple as that, because we got all kinds of people coming, but there's a certain common thread that kind of runs through where I don't know if they're a bit more inquisitive, a bit more open-minded. I don't know. There's kind of something there that a lot of the people who come to the events you organise, Rachel, seem to have a sort of common thread running through them, you know, that they look for things that are a wee bit different, you know.
Unusual, yeah. I think it is. They're all very interesting people.
Yes,
See,
absolutely.
Because I see Donna and John Brady and John McShane and Keris, see, and I think they're all very interesting. So there you are.
Yep, and Donna actually joined us for the open day, didn't she? She was there.
Yes, oh, it was brilliant. And Mr. McShane was part of our open day. So after you did Ceolagus Crack, what did we do then?
We had, in fact, Keris was involved too, wasn't she? Because we had the Celtic tasting as well.
So we had the Celtic cousins tasting. So that was brilliant. So that was where we had whiskey from Wales, from Penderyn, which was introduced by Keris, and then we had a whiskey from Waterford, which was introduced by Ned Gahan, the manager there, and then we had a malt from Islay, which obviously was introduced by myself. But the whole point of that was the connection between us, between the three Celtic nations. So Keris did a brilliant presentation. Now, Keris, I was going to ask you if you would mind if I maybe shared your video. I know that I'm asking you in public here.
No pressure.
Because I thought that it might be nice for people, because if you weren't at the tasting, obviously you're not going to see this lovely presentation. So I thought that might be quite a nice
absolutely. Yeah,
I'll put it on the spot. Hello, Chris Brown. Oh, you don't mind at all. Fantastic. Well, we'll get that sorted.
Great stuff. Yeah, I mean, again, that was something that I don't think it's the kind of thing no one else is doing around the time of the Feis, you know. Everybody tends to get, which is understandable, but everybody tends to get very focused on pushing their own brands. You know, so it's kind of nice for us maybe to talk about the bigger picture a wee bit instead of just focusing in on one tiny little thing. We're able to talk about Islay, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, where it relates to the Irish stuff and the Welsh stuff. John McShane makes a very good point there that Steph Holt, the Waterford ambassador, was there, joined us as well.
Which was lovely, because Waterford really supported us in hosting that event, because they believed in what we were doing. So Ned and Steph and Megan keeps them all right in the office. They arranged that I would get delivery of a bottle so that I didn't need to use my own and I could keep it for myself.
Excellent. There you go.
Said that she would come along and join us. So that was lovely. That you know, that Steph was there and they supported us. Really appreciated that. I'm aware of time, Neil. We'll just tell people about the Celtic, about the Enchanting Scotland show, which was the
showpiece, wasn't it? That was the sort of showpiece, the highlight of the day.
It's called the Enchanting Scotland show, and what it does, because we're doing it again. So what it did, it takes you through the history of Islay, but also the history of Scotland from 12,000 years ago until the present day. And we had involved in that, we had a storyteller, we had real beer barley that was brought from Orkney, beer barley kernels, we had beer barley shortbread, we had Neil Murphy telling us about the malt protests in Glasgow. We had Mr. McShane sharing about the declaration of Arbroath, and William Wallace and Robert the Bruce. We talked about Culdalton and about the coming of Christianity. What else did we talk about? We did the people in the days after the Ice Age, when they arrived and they were living in Islay. So that's 12,000, 14,000 years ago. So we moved through that with whiskies to connect to the past, and then we culminated it with a carchus when we talked about the Celtic diaspora and how the kinship of the Islay Whisky Academy tries to work with that as well, didn't we?
Yeah, I really like. Do you know? I think actually one of my favourite things about it's the sort of creative mind that you have. But when we laid out the rope on the floor at the beginning, and it was when people came and sat, we made them all come in and sit down first. And once everybody got comfortable, we said, we're talking about the movement of people. They had to go and look for good areas to cultivate and stuff. So now you're all going to have to get up and go and get your first dram. And we made them all get back up and follow the rope to the bar to get their dram, I thought that was a great fun. And so I think straight away it made everybody kind of go, oh, this is something different, They sort of straight away it caught people off guard and they were like, oh, what's going on here?
No, it was brilliant. I loved it myself. I just loved it.
It was great fun. It was great fun. Yeah.
So we had a brilliant day, but I wanted to do maybe a kind of roundup of the Feis itself, Neil, because I feel that perhaps that is reflecting maybe a wee bit on the industry and a bigger. I mean, anybody that's listening, please write in if you agree or not agree. So certainly the Feis wasn't as busy this year.
Right? Yeah.
But 2018, 2019, it was ridiculous in Islay. It was just, we couldn't have sustained that level of people. It was too heavy. It was like too heavy a weight on the island.
Right, yeah.
Whereas this Feis was a lot more balanced. And it wasn't so frenetic. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Not frantic, frenetic.
Yeah.
And I felt there wasn't so much, lines for people queuing and all this stuff, hassle about flipping and everything, because the distilleries handled the way that they dealt with things differently.
Yeah.
So, it was more gentle, I felt.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. As I said, it was my first time coming to the Feis, but part of the thing that's kind of put me off doing the Feis before is because I've always I like Islay when it's a bit quieter. Like I've always tended to come in the winter months, and one of the things that put me off was this idea of queues everywhere, and and if people are queuing up for too long and they're there with pressure on which bottles you get, and I've sort of thought that's not really the atmosphere for me. That's not what I want to be involved with. But I found it to be a lot less like that than I was expecting. I did find it to be very
but I think that's because of COVID, Neil. Because if you come in 2019, you would have been like that. Oh my God!
I mean, I did find some, and I don't want to focus on negative things, but I did find a couple of examples of fairly negative behaviour. But the one thing that I thought seemed a bit off was that apparently there was, now he didn't approach us, but other people in the ferry told us there was a guy from an auction company who was approaching people on the ferry, asking if they had any bottles that he could take off them. And I just thought, I mean, people are on a ferry going God knows where, who knows how much travelling they've got. How dare you come up and kind of get in their face and try and seek profit off them?
Huckle.
It's such a shame, because that to me seems, I mean, I get it. People are willing to pay crazy amounts of money for whiskey. So I get that people will try and sell bottles. I don't want to get into a big thing about that. I just felt it seems sort of against the spirit of the Feis, just to see the Feis as a business opportunity for making profits, I think seems against the spirit of the whole thing,
I think the Feis committee as aware of, I don't mean specific behaviour like that, but the Feis committee are trying to maybe reassert the Feis in Islay as a cultural event and put that more in people's consciousness, because we are not the same as other whisky festivals. It's not the same. So we don't want to be behaving like that. And the Feis puts on brilliant events, and all year they put on events, and they do Feis Ócari for music and for things like that. And they did a lot on the kind of heritage of the Feis this year. So I think I think this is good, because I think that had been maybe slightly forgotten about in the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think COVID has done a mighty smite on people that just came here for bucket lists, because A, the money, they don't have the money, and B, people are still a wee bit scared of crowds and things.
Yeah.
But the point that I was making about the Feis being like the whisky industry in Scotland is that I think that this is something that we need to be very aware of, that we need to, so the Feis committee and the likes of myself are very much bringing up the culture and the history and the heritage of Scotch, because that is what Scotch comes from. It's not in isolation. And that is what our visitors want. If they want something else, they'll go and drink something else. And the Scotch industry in Scotland needs to be very aware of that. And, you know, instead of trying to be, well, there's one company at the moment that's doing a ridiculous campaign, and they're from Ireland. I'm not going to say their name, but I'm quite sure everybody knows. And it's ludicrous. They're focusing on engineering, and I get that they're wanting to affiliate their expensive whiskey with an expensive car, but Scottish engineers built the world. They could have used phenomenal engineers from here. They could have used someone that built bridges. Imagine what, and then Scotch building bridges to other countries instead of a stupid racing car from England. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's such a wasted opportunity. And I think in the world now, Neil, I think that we really need to be aware of that. For companies be aware of that, because there's so much world whiskey. You know, what do you think?
You know, the distilleries all over the world are making great product now. There's great whiskey being made all over the world. So it's not whiskey. It's, you know, Scotland isn't unique in having whiskey. You know, even our cousins in Ireland have arguably been doing it longer than us. You know, but what makes our whiskey unique is our story that went into it. You know, as you say, the whole history, the heritage, everything is what has made Scotch whiskey into the product that we see now. So maybe you focus more on that, because that's what makes it unique, especially now, because people all over the world can get their hands on the same ingredients, the same casks, the same everything, and they're all churning out their own whiskey. And I think the ones of the...
But it's not Scotch.
No, it's not Scotch. I think, you know, the world whiskies who are being more successful are the ones that are focusing more on their own story, you know, like who are using local ingredients or doing something that could only really have been made there. It's you know, it's like the likes, I'm thinking the likes of maybe Milk and Honey and things like that, you know, over in Tel Aviv. Like, they seem to be doing very much their own thing, and that's why they are being successful. I mean, yes, they've got a great product that helps them be successful, but for people to really identify with things, it needs to have its own identity, and that needs to be it needs to be of the place it was made, and that's a new thing. Scotch is unique, you know. Scotch is of the place it was made, whether it's local ingredients or not. I think that's the thing that's happening
in the world, Neil, because people are now wanting to grow and produce in their own area. And see, one of the worst things in the planet is like sending, you know, bringing apples from New Zealand or things like that. Do you know what I mean? So they're wanting to grow things where they live and create something from where they live. Maybe, I don't know how that'll pan out, you know.
No. Well, we've had a couple of interesting comments here, actually. So Leslie there said, which is great, said she was at Feis in 2018 and found it delightful. and didn't seem too crowded. That's excellent. But she does actually follow that up with, she does understand it's a small island, limited infrastructure, but she's probably more concerned with, I'm sorry, I just realised I assumed that Leslie is a girl. It might not be. Apologies. I'm probably more concerned with whether the number of distilleries is sustainable. And again, this is something we've spoke about before, Rachel, isn't it? That who knows, who knows whether what we've got now is sustainable, and people just keep loading more on. So,
well, I think it's sustainable if it's small distilleries, but we've done this before, so we'll not talk about that again tonight. Mr. McShane makes a great point. Can we highlight that one, please?
Absolutely. So we are the only country in the world where you don't have to even say the word whiskey. Scotch will suffice anywhere.
So our word and our nationality.
Our product and then
product, yes.
And I think if John doesn't mind me sort of pinching one of the things he says a lot, you can go into any bar in the world and just say the word Scotch, and people will, all Scotch means is Scottish. There's no other product in the world. You can just walk into a bar and say the name of the country and people know exactly what you mean. It's the only product in the world that you can do that with.
Yes.
So, apologies for plagiarising your work there, John. But
I'm aware that the time's moving on. Now, Chris Brown is supposed to be joining us, but I see him making comments, but he's not. Is he there?
I can't see him in the studio yet. I don't know if you got the invite link, Chris. If you do, you can pop in and we'll bring you on when we get the chance.
It's in his Facebook Messenger. Is that right?
Messenger, yeah. Or well, did you send the link to him, Rachel?
No, I didn't.
Neither did I. I thought you were sending.
Oh, see, poor man.
Right, Chris, I'm going to send you an invite.
Sorry about that, Chris. Oh my gosh! You see, Neil Murphy's away on holiday.
I know. I've been really. I apologise. I have been really disorganised with all of this.
You admit that, John McTune. See when Neil Murphy goes on holiday, everything goes just.
Right. Let me see if I can get Chris in with us. Hang on.
Oh dear, poor Chris.
I know.
The other point that I wanted to make is we've had a very exciting announcement yesterday.
We did.
Our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced that in 19th of October 2023, we're going to have Scotland's independence referendum. And I'm very excited about that because I think when Scotland is an independent, powerful country, it'll be a lot more beneficial to the intrinsic Scotch industry in this country. Because at the moment, we are not in control of our premier industry, because the tax and duty that goes to the English Queen, and I mean the money that is generated from that is phenomenal, and Scotland does not really benefit from that. And the other thing is, though, that in terms of negotiating and dealing with trade deals, we are not at the table. We're actually like under the table when the UK are discussing Scotch.
Yeah.
How is that beneficial to us?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as you mentioned, we had a whole, we had this whole trade war thing going on a while back, didn't we? Where we had the US slapping slapping tariffs on single malt Scotch, and we had the EU slapping tariffs on bourbon. And obviously, that Scotland and Scotch was very badly impacted by that. But
25%.
Yeah, but had no say in the matter or no way to negotiate or bring a uniquely Scottish point of view to it. No, we weren't the only ones impacted, but certainly, a tariff on single malt is going to impact Scotch whisky more than any other industry in the UK. And yeah, so It's interesting, and I mean, I as you know, I'm a supporter of independence, so I'm eager for another referendum. I hope we make the right choice this time. But
well,
yes,
I think everybody will, Neil, because there's been so much.
Hope so.
We've gone back to the Victorian times now.
Well, it's interesting actually, because see, we mentioned earlier that during the Enchanting Scotland show, the topic that I spoke about was the Malt Riot whiskey bottle that's released by Glasgow Distillery, and that the whole thing of that is it comes about because when England and Scotland joined together in 1707, the English already had a tax on malt, and they wanted that tax to roll out across both countries. Naturally, the Scots weren't so keen on taking on what they saw as the English malt tax. So that was a sort of heated debate, and part of the agreement of the union was that tax would never be implemented. But then in
300 years later, we're still suffering.
Well, you know, but you know, in 1713, just 6 years later, that tax is back on the table and back being negotiated. Now, what a lot of people probably don't know, and this is the bit that's relevant, there was actually the feeling against this malt tax coming back up was so strong that there was a motion to repeal the union. So that's 1713. That's only 6 years or so after we actually got into the union. There was a motion to get out the union again, and it only very narrowly failed. You know, so this sort of the picture that's painted of it being a wonderfully happy, successful union for 300 years isn't technically all that true. Ever since there's been a union, there's been a desire to get out of it, you know. And as I say, that's been going on right from the start.
And that's why they were protesting. And then that's how Daniel of Shawfield ended up being awarded, was it £10,000?
Yes.
Bought Islay House in Islay Estates.
Yeah.
So the union has seriously impacted Islay, but it also seriously impacted the Scotch whiskey industry. So
yeah, I mean, so it's going to be interesting times ahead, because I've already I'm on holiday anyway, but I've already had to step back from social media a wee bit, because you just see people arguing about stuff already, you know, and I'm thinking, God, what's it going to be like come October next year? But you know,
can I do a wee shout out to Jay Havner there? It's great to have you with us, Jay, and congratulations. Jay has got a new job just recently, so we give him
congratulations. Meldon.
Yes, well done indeed. So has Chris managed to get the link working? Because it would be nice to have him.
Yes, he's with us. Chris is with us. We can bring him in.
Done. So good, Chris. I'm saying, I wonder if Chris couldn't work the technology, and it's our fault. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we welcome Chris Brown, please? Chris Brown is our ambassador for the Islay Whisky Academy in America. So, welcome, Chris.
Welcome, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on today.
That's so funny. It's like my friends. They got married, and one of their very good friends, he wasn't going to the wedding, and I said, why not? And he said, I never got an invitation. I said, of course I did, but the bride forgot to send it, and the groom forgot to. They both thought each other would send it. Me and you, Neil, we both thought the other thing.
Yeah. So sorry about that. Your presence was important to us. We just sort of forgot all about that, really.
That's okay. No worries at all.
So I think what we're going to do, Chris, Neil's going to ask you some questions, not to put you in the hot spot or anything, but and then we'll just take it from there.
No problem. So it's going to just be sort of your story, if you like, Chris. Obviously, first of all, do you want to tell everybody where you're from, first of all, I suppose?
Just in actually on the East Coast in the United States, in the state of Pennsylvania.
Beautiful.
So unfortunately, where I live, our liquor laws are pretty strict, and it's pretty tough to get some good whiskeys around here. But fortunately, in some of my tastings, I'm able to go through a business called Dreadnought Wines out of Pittsburgh, and they're supplied by Raj Sabharwal with Glass Revolution Imports, and so they helped me out on some of the tasting, which is nice. So I can get some better whiskeys. So that was good. It was really nice.
Ah, that's excellent. Yeah, good. So how did you kind of get into whiskey to begin with, Chris? How did you come to it?
It all started way back when. That was way back when I was really interested. After I explained that I kind of took care of my kids and got them situated, and then I got into. I always had the passion for whiskey for a number of years, but finally just decided after the kids were situated that I would pursue it. And I actually, one of the first people I spoke to through social media was John McSheen. And he mentioned the Islay Whisky Academy. And of course, you remember, Rachel, I pursued it, and I was just blown away. Honestly, I really was blown away by all the people. And I knew him. I knew Jim McEwen was going to be there. And well, maybe between John Campbell and even we went to Kilholman and Anthony Wills and everything. It was an amazing week. And so I just knew how to do it. And that was it.
I think, were you there the year that the Islay Whisky Academy held it as Theatre of Drams? You were there for that one, weren't you?
Yeah,
that was an amazing event, because we held things, not just the diploma, we held other events as well that week in parallel, didn't we?
Yes, it was really good. And I know Jay's on. I know a lot of other people on. I just like to say hello.
Yes.
Yep, because he was there when I was there. So
hello, Udo. Lovely to have you with us.
Great to see Udo also.
Yes. Udo, the gent that worked to get Jim McEwen's fantastic book.
Water Life and everything. Great book, by the way. Very good book.
Brilliant book. Brilliant book.
Yeah.
So I had other questions for you, Chris, but you've eliminated about 4 of them with your answer there. We covered just about everything.
Sorry.
I mean, no, it's all right. I was going to ask how you heard about the Academy, obviously through John. That's great. But I mean, do you remember then of the time you were at the Academy, any sort of specific highlights, the things that really stood out for you? Maybe like the things you took away the most, you know?
All the distilleries, visiting the distilleries, and even we had even great nighttime events. But obviously we had the master class with Jim McEwen at that one, and that was just everything. It was just a fantastic week. The different people I got a chance to meet and still remain friends with them to today. And it was just a fantastic experience all the way around.
Yep, great stuff. Great stuff. And you mentioned a wee bit earlier, you've kind of gone on to start hosting your own tasting events and things now, haven't you?
Yep. In fact, this year alone, in January, I did a Scotch tasting. And then in March, I did an Irish whiskey tasting, and I'm gonna be doing a bourbon tasting this coming not this weekend, but the following weekend, July 9th. Excellent. But every time I have the tastings, a number of people come up to me and say, "When are you going to do a bourbon tasting?"
Right.
So I decided, well, I have to expand my
repertoire.
Yeah. So I did. Actually, it's very good. It's very interesting because of the different whiskeys that I'm going to include, and they all have a history behind them. They all have a story, and you learn a lot. Even myself doing the research, and it's just good for education.
It's not hard to do whiskey research or bourbon research.
No, it's very interesting.
Do you have certain drams in mind for that then, Chris, already? Are you able to drop any hints, or do you prefer to keep that?
No, it's the first one we're going to be looking at is going to be Widow Jane 10-year straight bourbon. And the nice thing about that one is the master distiller there is a woman, and it's Lisa Roper Wicker.
Yeah.
She's been in the business for quite a long time, and just interesting facts. I know the water source that they use to proof their whiskey comes from a limestone mine up in Rosendale, New York, and so the water content has higher levels of calcium and magnesium, and they use that to lower the level of their whiskey from higher up, but it adds to the flavor of the whiskey too. And then I'll move on to Four Roses, going to be doing another the small batch select, and that one's nice because they combine 6 different recipes and 3 different yeast strains. It's interesting because we talked about even at Islay Whisky Academy how important that yeast strains are and what they contribute to the flavors, and it's just interesting. And the last one I'll be doing is the Wild Turkey Rare Breed, and that's another straight one. But that's going to be a cask strength. And the interesting thing there is the master distiller Jimmy Russell. I think he's tenured to be one of the world's oldest master distillers in the world. So it's interesting all the way around. So that's why I like to give a story with the events and kind of just give a little history for each of the places, along with then you get into the bourbon and the mash bills and the different things and everything associated with bourbon. But it's interesting.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. I like that as well. I think I would really appreciate your events, Chris, because I really like the sort of, yes, it's about great whiskey, but it's also about the stories and things that go with them. I think that's what makes a great whiskey tasting. A whiskey tasting as an event is so much more than just a presentation of some nice whiskies,
Right.
I think you have to give people a wee bit of something else,
Which brings us very neatly to an interesting thing. Well, we think it's exciting, and we hope that you might be able to come up and join us. We are going to New York.
I saw that. That's great. I'm excited. You guys will have to let me know when that is because I'll do my best. Maybe I can meet up with you for a little bit.
April to the 10th of April to the 16th of April next year.
Next year. Okay. Very good.
We're bringing the Enchanting Scotland show. Are you hearing that, Mr. McShane? We're taking the Enchanting Scotland show to New York.
There you go.
Now, how can we hold that without you?
Bring along. Very good. That's exciting, though. It really is. It's good. Very good.
Yep.
We can bring Udo along too.
You can come along. Everybody come along.
Everyone's welcome. Yep.
We started working on that now, Chris.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Oh, Donna, yes.
There you go.
For sure. Yes.
It's just the Islay Whisky Academy brings its own crowd with it everywhere it goes.
Yes. All our friends. So we just take the kinship wherever we go.
You don't have to say honestly.
Wherever we go. It's brilliant fun. Oh. Will they let you in now? This is the question.
They'll let you in. Don't worry. No, I have to say, Rachel, honestly, between the Islay Whisky Academy and everything, the kinship, I'll tell you what, you have introduced me, between even Neil, you've introduced me to so many nice, knowledgeable people. It's just wonderful. It really, really is.
I'm pleased. Well, that's what it's all about, Chris. That's the nicest thing you could say, because that's the whole, that's what it's all about, really. It's just wonderful. I'm aware time's marching on, Neil. What else were we going to?
I think we were just going to maybe do a wee quick mention of what we've got coming up this year. Obviously, we've got 2 diplomas before the year's out. Is that correct?
Yes. So our diploma in September is the last week of September. I haven't got the exact dates, but it's the last full week. I think it may be like the 24th to the 29th or something like that. And we are very privileged because we have a teacher, an amazing blender, whiskey maker Deval Gandhi. I'm blown away that he wants to come and teach our students. I mean, I'm like that. Thank you very much.
Really
That's
nice.
amazing.
Yeah.
Because when I asked him to come, he's like, "Oh, I can't come these dates, Rachel. I'm hosting a conference for the World Blenders in Chicago." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." And then he goes, "But I could come in September." I was like, "Yeah." So he's coming to teach us, and a very fantastic, knowledgeable distiller who you will all know. He's trying to make it work to come home to teach our students in October about his new distillery, Loch Lee. So he can't come in September because he's traveling, but he can come. He's hoping to try and join us. So that would be brilliant. He's coming home to teach us, John Campbell. I hope he can.
That'd be great.
Amongst others, that's the first two people that I've been speaking to.
And if anybody does want to know more or book their place on either the September or October, we do have the website's undergoing a bit of an update at the minute, isn't it? But
yes, and he's been a very good job. That's Mr. Murphy helping us. But
yes, the parts where you book the courses are working. So you can go on and find out more. We have things like sort of sample itineraries, don't we? If people want to know what a week on the diploma course sort of consists of, they can see a demo of the kinds of layout of the week.
I think, do we have now? I was going to ask you about that, John. Do we have John? Sorry, Neil. Do we have all diploma weeks?
We have the 2018 and 2019, I believe, are still up there.
Okay. When you came, Chris? When did we do Theatre of Drums? Was that 17?
Of October? No, it actually started I think October 23rd.
What year?
What was it?
2017. I'm sorry. Yeah.
2017. Right. Okay. So what I'll need to do, I'll make a thing about that one, Neil, and I'll give it to you. But we've got other exciting news too, don't we?
Oh yes.
Yes. So, Mr. McShane, this will give you an excuse. We're bringing the Enchanting Scotland show to Glasgow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And
very nice.
Think it might be, is it the middle of September? Was it the 15th or something like that? Wait, no,
I thought it was early October I had in my head, but I could be
right, wait a minute. Yes, you're probably right. Hold on.
The 8th or something, maybe. I thought we had the 8th down for it, but I could be remembering that.
October, yes, you're right. Yes, because then it's the diploma.
Mm-hmm.
It's either October or September. We need to check that.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a very interesting thing involved in that as well, because Glasgow Distillery, who don't allow visits as part of our day, because we're going to have a day, so it's going to be like our Feis Ile day, right? And it's going to be, the day is going to be called Theatre of Drums, Chris. So it's a Theatre of Drums day. We're going to host some of the events that we held in our open day, but also we're offering some lucky people tours of the Glasgow Distillery private tours.
Excellent.
So because they want to be involved, so that's exciting. I don't know how will work at all, but
manage it.
Wants to be involved. That's exciting.
Yeah, these things always work out, don't they?
Yes, somehow by magic. Like you appearing on the show, Chris.
Yeah, exactly. It all worked out. What about yourself, Chris? Have you got any sort of plans coming up for any big whiskey plans this year or coming up or anything?
No, unfortunately, I have to say it's like I'd like to. I really wish I could do more with getting more of the whiskeys, especially associated with Islay, into our state. It's just I'm actually seeing behind the scenes a little bit. I get to be friends with different people on social media. And I just like to see if I could push that a little bit more, because and not to get into politics at all, but as the elections come up, hopefully one of these days we can improve the situation where we start to, I mean, some of our surrounding states have a lot better selections and varieties, and obviously people go to those states to get them. But you know, I mean, unfortunately, our state's missing out on a lot of revenue that they could be making simply because they're not offering it. But
it
never know.
seems like such a mistake, doesn't it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's a bit like the prohibition days in Pennsylvania.
It is. Unfortunately, if you talk to some of the people, even you know, when I talk to some of the people from Iowa, they can't even ship it to our state. You know, and it's sad. It's really sad, because there's so many things that a lot of people would like to have here, but they can't get it. You know, so
seems so silly, because the only people suffering are the people of Pennsylvania. You know, they're the ones just missing out on stuff, and there doesn't seem to be a good reason for why you should miss out. So it's crazy. It's great. I hope better days are ahead for you.
Or you just need to move, Chris. You need to just move to Islay.
That's what you do, yeah.
Rachel, you know I would.
Donna's actually just said the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get a 2-for-1 deal, huh?
Yeah.
Excellent.
What else now have we got going on? Have we told everybody?
I think that was just about all we had to cover. Yeah, we mentioned Glasgow and New York and our guests for September, October. So I think we've just about covered everything we had on the hastily written agenda earlier on.
And we had the Feis Ile microcosm. I don't know if we did we say that. Well, I think it just really reflects what's happening in Scotland with visitors. You know, because we don't have we're not really got Asian visitors. We've obviously not got Russian visitors. And latterly there, we didn't have many American visitors, but I think now you don't need to do your COVID testing. Was that stopped last Sunday? That might mean there'll be more Russian American visitors. So, you know, Scotland has been missing all these people, you know, because of all the COVID and various other factors. And it was seen at the Feis because the Feis was less. But I actually quite liked the Feis being less. I felt it was a more, it was like it was many years ago when people could maybe, the distillery managers had fun and had a drink and had a ceilidh. I'm not saying we don't have fun, that's not what I'm saying. But years ago, the people that worked there were more involved in the fun bit rather than just the work bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I said, it was my first time over, and I did really enjoy myself, because, you know, we were busy with the open day and we were working and stuff, but we obviously had time to enjoy ourselves as well. And I thought the atmosphere was great. But it is a different experience than, you know, from going to Islay other times, because what I love about going to Islay is the people, and you get to spend time with the people of Islay, who are what make the place so magical to begin with. And when you're over at the Feis, I think it's everybody who lives in the island is so busy working through the Feis, obviously. But so you sort of hang out with other tourists and other visitors instead. And you have a lovely time with them too, but it's a different experience, you know. You meet like-minded people from all over the world, and that's great as well. But you don't really get to spend time with the Islay people maybe as much as you would if you come at a later time of year, you know.
I really appreciated the Feis after not having it for the last 2 years.
It
was so nice to see everybody, and also a thing happened to me when we were planning the Glasgow event. I was thinking to myself, where will we advertise this? Who'll come to this? And and then I realised in Islay, people come to us. I mean, of course, you have to say this is the Islay Whisky Academy. We're doing this, that, and the next thing. I don't mean that, but people want to come here, so they're already looking out. But if you're in Glasgow, you've got to shout, "I'm here!"
Yeah,
and I've never thought that before. And I thought, oh my goodness, we are so privileged. That people love Islay and want to come here. And I mean, I've always thought, oh, I'm so happy that we've got everybody. But I never thought of it in business terms. I just thought it in like maybe happy terms or friendship terms. So that was an amazing thing. I thought, oh my God, Islay's very lucky.
Well, I mean, I think that's a lovely note to kind of bring the conversation to a close with, isn't it? That's the sort of it was great to see the Feis back again, and great to see everybody from all over the world meeting up and hanging out together. That's exactly what I think. There was a couple of comments in the chat earlier on. I think it was Udo and John McShane having a wee conversation and saying, that whiskey brings people together, and that's exactly what we saw at the Feis there. So yeah.
So Chris, I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
Eventually will join us. Oh my God! And I'm saying, that's funny. He's not signed on, and Neil's going, "Oh, funny, he's not signed."
Oh dear, we're so professional.
Oh,
thank you very much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. It's great to see you guys.
No, well, thank you for joining us, Chris, and thanks because you're quite a big part of the kinship. You're very involved with everything,
and always supportive. And Chris was part of the Feis dinner that we had. Was it 2 years ago? And
it was that 2020, 2021, something. Yeah, excellent. Okay, so anything more to add, Rachel? Is that us?
Well, I don't know when we'll have our next one because I am going to be away for quite a wee while, but you'll be able to on Instagram. I'm going to photograph any whiskey bottles in any cafes or restaurants that I stop for. So that, and I'll put where I am, what village I am. So but that I'm going to be away until after the show, so we'll maybe have a wee holiday for next month, and then will we have another IWA in the end of August?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Does that sound a plan?
All right. That sounds good.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It was lovely to see you all, and I hope you've got good weather. Like we've got the sun shining outside here. It's great. So hope you've got a nice day tomorrow, Mr. Murphy, for the rest of your holidays.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. The weather has been very changeable, shall we say? It's nice tonight, but it was pouring this morning. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. It was threatening a weather forecast of thunder and lightning tomorrow at one point. So I've no idea what we're going to get, but we've got this, so it doesn't really matter,
As long as we've got a wee dram, the weather is always good.
Exactly.
Slàinte mhath.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye
See you
now.
guys.
Bye. Bye.